Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is the second webinar in the series that we're organizing on Catch the Rain. This is the webinar that is being organized by FICCI in partnership with the National Water Mission to advance the campaign on Catch the Rain that the National Water Mission has designed. The first one was organized on the 8th of July, which was particularly focused on rainwater harvesting, infrastructure preparedness and awareness generation. And we had the opportunity to hear experts in the previous one as well as an example from the corporate sector. So we had Diageo India, which spoke about their initiatives in corporate water stewardship focused on rainwater harvesting. Today's webinar is particularly on the issue of groundwater recharge and aquifer recharge. So as we know that rainwater harvesting can enhance surface water as well as groundwater. Today our particular focus will be on groundwater recharge efforts. And we are joined here by Ms. Naina Lal Kidwai, who is past president of FICCI. She is also the chairman of the FICCI Water Mission and the India Sanitation Coalition, also steered by FICCI. We have with us also Mr. Mukund Vasudevan, who is the co-chair of the FICCI Water Mission and MD of Ecolab India. We have Mr. Ashok Kumar, who is Mission Director of the National Water Mission and Additional Secretary, Ministry of Water Resources and Ganga Rejuvenation. Mr. Ashok Kumar is the person who is leading the campaign on Catch the Rain. So it's wonderful to have him here with us, and he will also make a presentation on what the National Water Mission is doing, particularly with focus on the Catch the Rain campaign. On the panel today, we have two very renowned experts on groundwater with us today. We have Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni, who is Executive Director of Aqua Dam. He is a very renowned expert in India on groundwater. Also a member of the FICCI Water Awards jury. So welcome to Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni. And we have Dr. Dipankar Saga, another groundwater expert who has had a very long stint with the Central Groundwater Board, so brings real deep insights from the policy side on groundwater management. And with us here today, we also have the presentation that will be made by Vika Gopinath, who is the Environment, Health and Safety Specialist from ITC Limited. So we'll get to hear another corporate insights today on so with that, I will not take up much time. As I said in the beginning, we are receiving very strong interest for the Catch the Rain webinar series. For today's event, in fact, 367 participants have officially registered with us. Right now, I can see on my screen 158 people who have already joined us. And it includes a very wide range of participants and stakeholders from the corporate sector, from institutions. So we have various institutions, including the allied participating today. We have officials from the Central Groundwater Board. We have various foundations and NGOs who are on this call today. So a very interesting and diverse mix. And we look forward to a very good deliberation and interactive discussion. After the speakers have given their insights and the panel discussion, we will then open up for an interactive session, and we'll request the participants to post their questions on the Q&A box. So with that, I have the pleasure of inviting Ms. Naina Lal Kidwai, the chair of the FICCI Water Mission, to make her welcome remarks. Ms. Kidwai.
Thank you, Rita, and welcome to all of you. I know that in sessions such as this, in many ways, we talk to the converted, those who already understand the issues, those who are already engaged. But having said that, creating and providing a platform where we can convene and understand what we can do better, how we can hold each other's hands through this journey becomes key. And it's always wonderful to have the government here in partnership telling us what they do, but also telling us where they need us as different stakeholders. Now, the subject today goes without say is possibly the most critical one for us as a country. If you look at groundwater utilization, 90% of rural India's drinking water comes from groundwater, 75% of agriculture, 50% of urban water supply, groundwater based. And to my mind, this has got to be one of the biggest failures of our water delivery system. In many cases, this happens because alternatives don't exist. So as we look to solve for groundwater use, we have to look to solve for water availability to our populations, even as we look to conserve groundwater, which, of course, if you look at these numbers, India has about the highest groundwater utilization rates of anywhere in the world. It's a serious crisis needing very serious solutions. Now, it goes without saying that we all recognize that groundwater is an invisible, powerful resource. It needs to be effectively managed by involving the resource aquifers and communities that all users, no matter where we sit and what we do, we have to come together to ensure that the right processes, the right solutions present themselves. So where does the FICCI water mission fit in to all of this? So when we set up the FICCI water mission a decade ago, I must tell you that we struggled. We struggled to get a handful of corporates on board to share with us what they were doing. We struggled to create mind space amongst those that mattered in terms of what needed to be done. And the good news today is if you talk to the corporates, you talk to, of course, stakeholders across the board, and government always been very engaged in this space. Water is right up there as one of the highest risk areas for us as a country. It's one of the highest risk areas for corporates, and indeed, the way corporates engage with communities around where we work and where we draw water from has become critical, where the risk of not working efficiently with water on our premises, but equally in conserving water around our premises and all that happens outside of our wall, outside of our factories, is as critical as the water efficiency and processes that we adopt within our factories. So our work is really to support all the efforts of corporates and replicate what is working, ensure that compliance happens at all levels, and in doing this, to bring the language of water efficiency into the corporate DNA and, of course, into their CSR initiatives. But it's much wider and broader than CSR per se. It has to exist in the DNA of the organization. And the three focus areas for us over this last year has been industrial water use efficiency. That, of course, has been our work through the decades and continues now. The second area which we have now picked up a fair amount of focus on is urban wastewater management, both through PPP models and the technologies therein. And the third and critical area, which we have been tracking for a while now, is what we call corporate water stewardship, which is, again, as I mentioned, about water use on premises, but also the way we act as water stewards around the stakeholders and communities where we function, where we work, and particularly around factories where we exist. So in this third area of corporate water stewardship, as we look at ways of sensitizing industry to involve ourselves in corporate water conservation, it also inevitably includes groundwater recharging initiatives. Now, there's no doubt in my mind that corporates are now far more aware, understand the complexities of our roles, the interconnections of impact on water and groundwater, and are working towards creating this shared value, both for corporates and for society. But we still aren't at the levels that we need to be at. And I would say while large corporates are getting their act together and the compliance standards are such that they're required to, which is excellent, it is unfortunately not as adhered to as we would like across all corporates. And much more work and support needs to be provided to the SMEs and MSMEs who exist and are indeed so critical to the economy of the country. Now, interventions in this groundwater recharge and aquifer management are focus areas which, as we see it, should not just be the CSR activity of corporates, but much deeper than that. And that engagement in terms of the sustainability footprint and common natural resource being used responsibly is very critical. And I'm glad to see that some of this is emerging in the sustainability reports that corporates are now bringing out and sharing with communities at large. Through CSR initiatives, and we have some of those corporates, I think, registered for this call here today as well. Groups like the Ambuja Foundation, others are doing a lot of work in constructing check dams, percolation tanks, reviving traditional structures that are sources of water. And these structures for storing water are clearly resources for aquifers as well. We are seeing industries shifting towards crops which are less water intensive and which they use as raw material. We are, of course, looking at industries conserving water across the board, and effluent control and damaging of water is also something which continues to be a high level of focus. Now, corporates, as we align with whether through CSR initiatives or otherwise, with the Ministry of Jal Shakti's aim at improving groundwater and restoring the health of the country's aquifers, require this partnership to be taken to another level. And I hope that we will explore some of that today. I'm very happy that FICCI, as part of the National Water Mission, is in the Catch the Rain campaign and supporting these initiatives of water conservation by creating awareness within corporates and other stakeholders. It's a very catchy campaign. I must congratulate the government for having launched this, and it's certainly one which all of us as citizens, communities, corporates are very engaged in. So let me end here by thanking all of you for coming together on this very important platform. I hope that we will continue to engage with you in this manner. And let me now welcome Shri Ashok Kumar. Rita has already, of course, introduced him, but he's a very important partner for us at FICCI, at the Water Mission, and he has much to share with us today, given the significance of his role as Additional Secretary and Mission Director of the National Water Mission, Department of Water Resources, River Development, and the Ganga Rejuvenation in the Ministry of Jal Shakti. And let me add, Mr. Kumar, that I'm personally delighted that we are seeing so much convening of government programs into the same ministry. I think the more we have of this, the better, so that we don't have the siloed approach that we have had for decades in our looking at how we solve for water. So with that, I welcome all the speakers and participants to this webinar. Thank you. Rita, back over to you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Kidwai, and for highlighting the fact that this has to happen with involvement of all users, and we indeed have a diverse set of user industry, also those who are providing the services and very diverse set of stakeholders. Right now, we have 218 people on this webinar. And also you highlighted the need for, water use efficiency to be part of the corporate DNA and as well as CSR initiatives. So now we have the opportunity to also hear a corporate perspective from our city water.
All right, thanks. Can you hear me? I couldn't hear you very well, Rita, at the end. Yeah, okay, perfect. Good afternoon, everyone. Real pleasure to be here. Shri Ashok Kumar, Shri Dipankar Saha, and Shri Himanshu Kulkarni. Thank you so much for participating in this picky seminar. Naina, great words to start off with. I would just like to add a few things from a corporate perspective and from a company which I'm the managing director of, Ecolab, which essentially helps industries save water, and that's our motto, that's our mission. And from that perspective, but also as a citizen of India and as a part of the FICCI Water Commission, I would like to add a few words to this campaign. I think, as Naina also mentioned, groundwater is so important. Everybody knows it. Everybody in this audience probably knows it. We don't need to preach the already converted. But I think the important things to think about here, I put them in three buckets. And I hope this seminar and some of the wisdom, collective wisdom which exists in this group can answer these. The first is, I think we need to start with the demand side and say, how can we reduce demand for water? And that's across all stakeholders. FICCI does its part. Even in the last session, we heard some best practices from industries. But I think there's still a lot industry can do, but there's also a lot which agriculture, irrigation related, and commercial and municipal establishments can also do to save water. And the first step is just reduce. We're not talking about expensive recycling. We're not talking about ZLD systems. It's just reduce the amount of water which is being used. That will put less of a strain on our groundwater, which 70% is already in a massively strained situation. The second thing I wanted to mention is that I think we need to look at our aquifers, and I understand there's around 44 major aquifers in the country. We need to look at that almost like a strategic reserve. Similar to how, if I may use the example of United States and many other countries, which have strategic reserves of oil, and they keep replenishing those to make sure that there is enough to last through 3 months, sometimes 6 months. They keep replenishing those. These are underground aquifers for oil, which they store oil in. I think we need to consider that kind of a possibility to say this is a strategic reserve. And until we get that attitude across the board, whether it is central and state, even within districts and municipalities, I think we won't get to the point where we can actually make an improvement. We can make a significant dent and help us sail through some of the driest periods of the year. There are companies, there are farms which shut down literally in summer months, and that cannot be done for a country like India, because that has a ripple effect on the economy, on food availability, starvation. So there's a ripple effect of it. So given the importance, I think we should think about how do we consider this, how do we make this a strategic reserve? And I think there is also technology angle to this second element, which is how do we actually measure on a real-time basis, or even if not real-time, at least on a weekly basis, to say how is the groundwater depleting in various aquifers. The last piece is, of course, recharging, right? And I think recharging the aquifers is something we have been doing, and it's mandated in many areas also. I think it's time that we actually put some measures to it. It's not just the tools to recharge, but the impact of the recharge, which needs to be continuously measured, and there needs to be some incentive mechanism built into it, which ties into the whole pricing of water and incentives. I think if we consider these three aspects holistically, which is how do we save on groundwater usage? Second, how do we make this a strategic reserve? And third, how do we incentivize people to recharge and measure so that the incentive is not just to build a groundwater recharging mechanism or a rainwater rainwater harvesting mechanism, but how much are you recharging? I think would be immensely helpful, especially from an industry perspective. I'm not the expert here. I would love for the experts to say more about these topics, but I hope this results in a few presentations, but also a robust dialogue, because that is what PT encourages, dialogue, and that is the power of such a forum, where we can have many more views put forward and debate around, which we can take forward, and hopefully in the long term, this results in policy change, or it results in the right incentives for different people to act in the right way for the country. With that, thank you very much, and pleasure to be here. I look forward to participating in the rest of the seminar. Back to you, Rita.
Very direct perspective process. I hope I'm not.
Bit of an echo.
Rita, too much echo.
I think mute. Everyone else has to mute. Yes. Yes. Is this better now? Okay. So thank you, Mukund, for those very exciting thoughts, and for those three issues, the three issues that you bucketed so well in terms of demand, in terms of treating it as a strategic reserve, and also in terms of aquifer management, more from a measurement perspective. And as a technology-driven company yourself, I think what you stressed on is the need to measure and monitor and look at resources from that perspective. So thank you for those excellent insights. Now I'll turn over to Mr. Ashok Kumar, Mission Director, National Water Mission, to make his presentation. Mr. Kumar.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for organizing this workshop, the seminar, and the series which we have been doing for last week, and then probably we'll go ahead also. National Water Mission is actually trying to reach out to people, all walks of life, industry, agriculturists, and the citizens, join this campaign Cash to Rain. But before, I have about 20 minutes, so I thought my presentation would be in about three particular blocks. One would be about introduce the people on National Water Mission. I know many of the people attended last webinar also here, but I was told that there are many new members also this. So despite a freedom of repetition, I will use about 7-8 minutes to tell about the National Water Mission, because National Water Mission itself requires a little bit of publicity, because this mission was never known to many people. That much in the last couple of 1 year or so. So National Water Mission is a mission which was set up by the Government of India in 2011, and can I get the presentation on? Okay. So is it coming through? Okay, National Water Mission is okay. Share the camera. Share. Okay.
Yes, we can see it now.
No, I am not. It's not the one. Okay, here. Can you see it now?
Yes.
So National Water Mission, as I said, is one of the missions set up in 2011 with 5 rules, as mentioned here. Comprehensive water database in public domain, which we are working on it, and to assess the impact of climate change on water resources. promotion of citizen and state action for water conservation, augmentation, and preservation. Third goal is the focused attention on vulnerable areas, including exploited areas. And fourth is increasing water usage efficiency, which Hidayat was also telling. We are focusing on increasing the water use efficiency in the agriculture and industry and in domestic applications. And the amount of water which we can save by increasing efficiency in agriculture itself is so phenomenal. As was mentioned by the earlier speaker, that about 80 to 85%, 89% of water is actually used. Water usage in India is on agriculture. Even if you save 10% of water, it's a huge volume saving of water which we get. And remaining 11% actually goes for industry and domestic appliance. So if we save 10% of water in agriculture, that would actually suffice for industries and agriculture and domestic consumption by solo. The promotion of basin level integrated water resource management. These are the 5 vision goals. Before going further, I request play that video. It will take us 4.5 minutes. So if we can play the video, it will be helpful. Are you getting the video on?
Not yet.
Yeah, continue until it comes. Also, in the water mission have started very interesting events. Mr. Kamal Kulkarni is one of the participants in our water talk which we had started. We had started on March 22nd last year. Lecture series called Water Talk, and every third Friday we have Indian speakers coming and speaking on us. Come on and speak. Not this the. Okay, not yet anyway. I have asked you to see the video of the National Water Mission. Please play this. No, if there's a problem in video, we can stop it. Because the bandwidth is not able to handle it. I think. Okay, we will. Okay, I think there's a problem with the bandwidth, so we'll continue with the presentation. Okay. Anyway, many people have seen it last time, so I'll tell what exactly we were doing in the last 1 year. One was the water talks, as I said before. We had very eminent people like Himanshu Kulkarni and other people who are coming in and giving us lectures on the various aspects of water. That the city had so far we have 14 water talks are over. Every third Friday we have it. Every third Friday. Okay. Every third Friday, we have the eminent speakers coming and talking to us on various aspects of water, and also we have we have come out with a book on that. That book is also available. I will try to put it online in our web book on the water talk series. Also, we had a very successful campaign called Sahi Fasal, where the farmers and the states were nudged to go for less water intensive crops like corn, etc., and move away from water intensive crops like paddy. That was a very successful campaign, and some of the states have taken up a lot of initiative on that. Today, our focus would be basically on the groundwater part of it, where the experts would talk on technical matters. I would like to talk basically on the campaign and also a little bit on the bursting of some of the myths which we are perpetuating. Last talk in the last seminar, we could talk about burst the myth that water actually is being more consumed by domestic and industry. The fact of the matter is 89% of the water in usage in India is in agriculture sector, and as I said, if a saving is done can achieve in the agriculture sector, there will be a tremendous saving. In one of the meetings with very eminent persons, when I said this, they were all surprised. They said every time we hear about savings in domestic sector, industry sector, increasing the water efficiency in industry, is it a fact that agriculture uses the maximum number of water? So that was one myth which we burst last time. Definitely, we have to take steps to increase the water efficiency in industry. Ms. Gidwai also said about it, and the Fiji also are taking a lot of campaign. We ourselves are also doing a lot of auditing of industries to increase the water efficiency in industries. But our focus on the demand side would be to reduce the water usage of water in agriculture or increase the water usage efficiency, increasing the area under cultivation using the same amount of water, and also using better practices which would reduce the water usage in agriculture, and also nudging people to move from crops which take less water. So that's the campaign, as I said, about Sahi Fasal. And today we want to break another myth about surface water and groundwater. all of us assume that the maximum number of quantity of water used in irrigation is the surface water, because we hear about Groundwater dams and the 5,000 dams which are spread all over the country, and we always feel that large quantity of water is impounded, and obviously the maximum irrigation would be done in India through surface water. But it is myth. From 1960s and 70s, when the Green Revolution started, the groundwater usage increased, and there was an exponential increase of exploiting groundwater for agriculture from 70s. Mr. Himanshu Kulkarni will come with his quite takeoff graph, where he showed that the groundwater utilization has been growing exponentially high from 1970s, and the water usage has been very high. This part, I'll give more details about it. And this is the water availability details in the country. About 18% of the world population is in India, whereas our water availability in the country is about 4%, and per capita availability is only 1400 meter cube. This is the total quantity of water available in India, about 4,000 billion cubic meters, and the water resource potential is about 1,869. Utilizable water resource after evaporation and other process is about 1,869. The groundwater, the surface water available is about 690, that's about 70%, and the groundwater is about 433 billion cubic meters, which is only 10.8%. And the utilization of groundwater is actually 245, that's billion cubic meters, which is only 6.12%. So if you look at statistics, yes, there is a lot of groundwater available for tapping, but there is a lot of geographical disparity. Areas which exploit groundwater more, the groundwater has gone down drastically, and this is a typical scene in some of the areas in summer where the water is not even available for drinking. But there are parts of other countries where a lot of water is available, and we are actually not getting that. Now, if you look at the water availability and the statistically speaking, water availability and the requirement demand, we still have a lot of water left that can be utilized. Still, the projection says that 2025 we will have excess about 294 BCM water available, and we will in 2050 only we will be actually going down more than what the water we have. But as I said, this is statistically speaking, because water where it is needed more, probably where available more, we are not exploiting there. Where water is exploited more, the necessity is also very high. So there is a dichotomy here. That's one point which I would like to make. And the second aspect is about the groundwater. As I said, the myth about the groundwater. We have about 5,700 dams and a large quantity of water stored there. But farmers in India prefer groundwater because of various reasons. When we got independence, we had the world's largest canal network, and we had the largest surface water irrigation in the country, in the world. But as I said, 1960 onwards, the water exploitation, groundwater exploitation increased. We in India have about 25 million wells, and not only the exploitation of water, there are other the accompanying usage of various other resources like energy. 120 to 150 gigawatt hour of energy is used by these wells to pump water from the ground. We have diesel, the consumption of diesel, very large quantity of diesel is being, about 5 to 8 billion liters of diesel is consumed by these pumps which pump water from the ground. So not only the water is being extracted, not only the groundwater is getting depleted, Because of these two wells, we also have a heavy price to pay on the energy side. The amount of energy and using agriculture is very high, and also the diesel. Diesel again we are importing, and it's a very strategic reserve. So the more we import petroleum products or foreign exchange reserve person, these are all very strategically important issues. So these groundwater has all sort of things linked up. One, if you save groundwater and reduce the level of the increase the level of groundwater, probably we can save lot of energy and money and foreign exchange. Almost 230 to 250 billion cubic meters of water is pumped out to irrigate about 65 to 70 million hectares of land. Yes, one of the reasons for high groundwater usage is the high population density on agricultural land. Because small vistas of lands are available with the farmers, and they tend to use to overuse this land for food production, and the fertility goes down, and they require more water, and they pump up more water to the ground. So that's one of the major reasons for the high extraction of water, and it's a matter of convenience also. The water in the canal is lasting only 3-4 months, and it all depends upon when government is pumping or irrigation department is pumping water, etc. Whereas because of the rights given by the old Eastern Act, where the water available under your own property is your property, and you can utilize that water because of that rule in the Eastern Act. A person who is having small land of land who would like to drill a bore and extract water from there. And to tap it out, we have our own policies which actually incentivize extraction of groundwater. We have free energy policy in many states, and free no water extraction is not charged, no cost is given for extracting water, and the laws are in favor. As I said, Eastern right Act confers the right of the water under your property with the farmer. So all these things actually incentivizes farmer draw out more water from the field, and for him there is no incentive to put back the water which is drawn. That's where the whole crux of the issue. And it's in a very interesting loop which we get into a vicious cycle, because the farmers tend to extract more and more groundwater. The surface irrigation and canals get affected. No maintenance is done on that. There is no money on the irrigation service fees are not collected because the farmers are not willing to pay this ISF, and for political reasons it is not collected. The canals are not maintained. Because canals are not maintained, there's leakage, and as the water which is coming in the canals are the canals are heated up, and the canals are now functional, so that all surface water gets into disuse. It's a very vicious circle they get into because of this groundwater issue. It's discussing very interesting problems. As I said, one, we find that the output of oil goes up very high. Energy utilization, which power which can be used for industries, get diverted to the agriculture sector, because of the overexploitation, the groundwater goes down and down, and require more and more powerful motors to pump up the water. More and more powerful motors means more and more powerful more and more usage of electricity. So we draw more and more power, and that cycle also continues. There is a massive wastage of water in sales because nobody is charging for the power utilized or for the water extracted. People tend to over-irrigate the land, no more water, and many places they just keep the water every time on, and whenever the power is available, it keeps on pumping. So nobody is bothered when the water is overexploited and the water is flowing out of the pit to the canals and getting lost. That's another very big disincentive with the overexploited groundwater. We have bankruptcy of electricity boards. because many of these government says that the electricity power is subsidized, and all their inefficiency of the electricity board, the AT&C losses, the transmission losses, and the commercial and AT&C losses, the aggregate commercial and transmission losses, all get pushed onto the agriculture side, and we pay for the inefficiency of the electricity board also. And this in turn leads to the bankruptcy of the electricity board. It is, it impacts multiple sectors. So it's a very interesting, interesting paradigm where a simple over-exploitation of groundwater can lead to the economy. So for that only we have said that we have to now look at the think back water issues. We are extracting water, extracting water. We have to deal with that. The demand side catches with us, and I am discussing all these. The experts will talk about that. The technical experts will talk on the various technical aspects of the groundwater. But my focus for the Cascade campaign part of it is get back the water to the aquifer which you are exploiting. If you are drawing more and more water from the aquifer, we also have responsibility to get back. That's where Cascade campaign comes in. Cascade campaign is actually supply side management of it. As I said, we have campaign for Sahi Fasal, looking at the demand side part of it. Just the auditing is done to have the demand side part of it. We are also looking at the 3R recycle, reduce and reuse of the water to handle the demand side management part of it. But now, in this particular campaign, which we have started with the tagline, "Catch the rain where it falls, when it falls." Our focus is on demand side, on the supply side of it. The campaign has a very interesting tagline, "Catch the rain where it falls, when it falls." So we don't want the water falling in one area to be transported and stored up in some far off area in a dam, because there are a lot of inefficiency associated with transporting the water, and also there are other environmental issues associated with this, because submergence issues come up, the land displacement of people who are submerged in the all the issues with that, and then after many years, dams get filtered up and the volume of water storage also comes down. So the huge investment which we make actually will not be of much use later on. So our focus is that the water, where the rainwater which is falling, should be stored where it falls and when it falls. Now, where it falls is a very interesting concept, because we want rainwater which is falling in your compound or in a field should be impounded at that place itself. घर का पानी घर में, पानी खेत का पानी खेत में. This has multiple advantages. If you impound the water in your field, a small area of a tank you can build in the field. Water can be collected there. That water will increase your water table. It improves the soil moisture, and it reduces the cost of pumping the water from the ground. That is one big advantage. Second, in the urban areas, if you catch the water in your compound using the rooftop rainwater harvesting structures, or the compound in the water harvesting structure in your compound, you will definitely increase your the groundwater table. You need not pump up water for drinking water purpose, at least in these municipalities. And biggest advantage would be the savings on the money spent on repair of roads after rains. Most of the cities now have massive problems with urban flooding. Where did urban flooding come? We never had this issue about 10 years back or 15 years back. Mainly because in every compound we have now either concretized or we have to tiles. So all the water which is flowing in the compound is now very fastly running onto the road, onto a stormwater drain which was designed to carry water from the road only. Road with water which is following for rainwater falling in that area was supposed to be carried by the stormwater drain. Now, with the rainwater falling in the compound of the neighboring houses and the other premises coming onto the road, the water gushing in the road is very high. That stormwater drains are not able to carry that much water. It gets down to the road gets damaged, and it goes down to a place where water body used to exist earlier, and now buildings have come up and encroachment has done in those areas, which results in flooding. So urban flooding has become a phenomenon because of because we are not catching the rain. So again, I'm coming back to the campaign. Catch the rain where it falls, when it falls. Rural area it has own benefits. In urban area it has own benefits. So my request today, with all the participants today, industries and the other citizens who are participating, we have to make a beginning to ensure that all the rain water which you are able to get should be compounded and stored in a place where we can use it. Not be sent out to rivers and other areas which can cause flooding. This will help you in the long way because water table will improve, your soil moisture will improve, and definitely when soil moisture improves, your greenery improves, your lawn will improve. A lot of positive attitudes associated with it. So back to the campaign, I want all of you to spread this message, catch the rain where it falls, when it falls. I want all of you to ensure that your house has rainwater harvesting, the rooftop rainwater harvesting structures, and your compound has the rainwater harvesting structures, and not a drop comes out of it. We have written from the national mission side institutions having large land area like railways, airports, universities, central universities, and then your IITs, IIMs, and also public sector undertakings and big industrial units to ensure that rainwater falling in your compound is counted there and not a drop comes out of it. This is in a way trying to be very possessive about the water you get. Whatever water God gives you, please be possessive about the water and try to use it, not to push it outside. Because many times the water flowing out from the compound is polluted, or maybe from the fields goes out with all the fertilizers mixed up and all these things, and it causes pollution of the fresh water also. I read somewhere that 1 liter of polluted water can pollute nearly 10 liters of fresh water. So this also adds to the problem of polluting fresh water. So back to the campaign, please spread this message to ensure that everywhere water is imported and is got in your place and not left out to the open area. Let us be very possessive about rainwater we get. That's exactly what Vice President of India, the leaders of this campaign, has said. Our Vice President, Mr. Garu, he has also very enthusiastic about this campaign. When he heard about it, he said it's a very wonderful campaign. We should now ensure that this message goes to every people, and he has endorsed it and sent the message. I request that we take this message from Vice President, and then we'll move further. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ashok Kumar, for the presentation and of national water. Can I ask everyone else, please? Yes, thank you. So thank you for making the detailed presentation on the National Water Mission and particularly Catch the Rain campaign. And as you so rightly pointed out, the demand side, the focus on agriculture, reducing the use of water in agriculture and water use efficiency measures, that, it's heartening to hear that the focus is now on the larger part of where the demand for water is generated from. So that's a heartening thing to hear. And I just wanted to mention for the benefit of all that the next two series in the Catch the Rain webinar series that we are going to organize. One of them is in fact going to be on water use efficiency in agriculture. Thank you, Mr. Kumar, for also busting the myth around surface water versus groundwater and how it is used for the purpose of agriculture and other uses. And you also focused on the supply side of the campaign, where it falls, when it falls. So thank you very much for your insights on this campaign, and I'm sure that it will be to carry forward by all those who are present here. I also just wanted to mention again, and I'm just intermittently mentioning the number of participants here, because on the Cisco WebEx platform, the participants can't see how many other participants are there. Only the panelists can see. So we have currently 269 people who are logged into this program. And I also want to mention that going forward, we will make available this on YouTube as well, this program. So now with that, we come to the part of the discussion, which is from the experts.
Can we have this video of Vice President, please?
Okay, sure. Please go ahead.
Let me share it again.
Yes, now it is visible.
Yes. So I'm going to very quickly take you through a short presentation and possibly run away after that, because I have to be in another session which has started at 2. It's actually the first online training that Aquadam is going to conduct on a foundation foundation course on groundwater, and we normally do this as part of face-to-face twice a year, especially for civil society organizations. So that's also happening today. So excuse me if I have to leave a little early. I'll try to remain as long as possible. At the onset, let me thank you, Rita, Naina, Mukund, Ashok, and of course the speaker following me, my old friend Pankaj, who will actually talk a little more about the recharge. what I thought I'd do is quickly take you through a set of pictures and slides, and each one has maybe a sentence each that I'd like you to think about. But before I go into that, I thought I'd also dwell a little bit on 3 or 4 comments that came up. So I think when we talk of, when I think Mukund was trying to explain about demand management, strategic reserves and measurement. So I would like to make 3 points on each one of those. First of all, I think, if you look at data in this country on water, we tend to focus a lot on inventorizing and putting up numbers, how many river basins, how many watersheds, how many aquifers. And I think that's possibly one of the easiest things to do. Again, we really don't know how useful that is, except for trying to make things important in policy and practice. But I think the bigger point, the larger point that I felt Mukund was also trying to make was about developing an understanding and knowledge around aquifers. So in some ways, a demystified understanding of aquifers, and that is what my organization, Aquam, has been striving to do for the last 22 years. The second is, I think, recharge is something where in the last few years, we've put our hearts in. We've actually put our hearts into recharge, rainwater harvesting, recharge. So we have a passion, we have our hearts in that. I think let's put our minds to it as well. Because I think heart without a mind is no heart at all. Third, I really like the point about measurement. And one of the reasons why we need to measure is I don't think you can manage, you can't manage a resource like water without measurement. Management then becomes redundant if you don't have measurement. And that essentially brings us to the question of the what, where, and when of catching the rain where it falls, groundwater recharge, and water conservation. But I think the larger question and the more challenging one is the how of it. And I'm going to spend a little time in trying to set a little bit of the context. Also in sort of beginning to answer the question that when we look at water harvesting, I think the nuance of water harvesting is not just about harvesting rain where it falls or harvesting water at all, but how do you strategically build a system where you harvest rainwater as surface water? And I'm not belying the fact that dams, small or large, have made a significant contribution in India's development. And where do you actually put groundwater or groundwater recharge? You can't possibly do everything everywhere. And I think that's where the strategies of aquifers, groundwater recharge, and even an understanding of what is called the base flow must happen. This was part of a small training module I did yesterday, but I've expanded on that. So I've forgotten to actually change the footer. But don't mind that because there are a few additional slides to this presentation. Now, India's groundwater dependence has actually been quite unfathomed, unrecognized, unacknowledged for many, many years. Over the last few years, of course, we have a much, much greater acknowledgement, even from within the government, from civil society, from the corporate. And I'm not going to read each and every figure on the left-hand side. We've already had that. We must also understand the photograph on the right-hand side, which many of you must have seen many, many times before, that even our forests, even our wildlife has become so dependent on groundwater that it's unimaginable for the common man living in, especially in the cities of India, to realize the real essence, the real importance of groundwater. And I think with such a large groundwater dependence, if you look at the numbers, if you put all these numbers together, we get a phenomenally large number of the human population in India, depending on groundwater in many different ways. So this is just another way of presenting the previous slide, purely in terms of a certain matrix of demographics.
So at least 1 billion Indians use groundwater every day. You can try it with secondary data and see if you get somewhere too close to this. 700 million Indians use groundwater every day in rural India in some way or the other. It may not be equally used, but they actually touch the resource of groundwater. And these are huge numbers, mind you. 420 million Indians use groundwater in agriculture during at least one season of the year. Again, not a small number. And I've just added a little bit of the aquadam sampling during the last 10, 15, 20 years, that 85% of the random sampling that we've done, random testing that we've done, only on the bacterial contamination side, reveals that 85% of the samples we tested positive for more than the allowable limit on bacterial contaminants. Now, that's what India's groundwater dependency is all about. I think the other question which we must remember is how this dependency has changed over the last, say, 60 to 70 years now. And what was a smaller proportion of water and irrigation at the time of independence, around 35%, is now the larger proportion of water and irrigation, almost 65 to 70%. And that is groundwater. So I think this flip around of the relative proportions of surface water and groundwater used in irrigation is something that has led to phenomenal changes. And the way we must begin to look at our groundwater resources. This is, of course, a slide that I just put in at Ashok's behest. And it's really about the global expansion of groundwater in use in agriculture. And you can see the India trajectory, and I kind of often say this jokingly, that when I normally sit at the Pune airport, I see two trajectories in which the aircraft take off. So this, the US, the China, the Mexico, these are trajectories in which commercial flights take off. And the India trajectory is like a Sukhoi taking off from Pune airport. And this is something phenomenal. This is unprecedented, because the global aggregated groundwater abstraction has actually increased sixfold during the last 50 years. So there is a phenomenal rise in global extraction. It's roughly around 1,000 billion cubic meters a year. This was in 2010, 986. Maybe it's around 1,000 now. India, United States, and China account for half the global groundwater use every year. And India became, the most important point, India became the largest user of groundwater in the 1980s, with a trajectory that is only going up, up, up and above. And I think with that, I'd like to come to the main core of my presentation. Like I said, if we count the numbers to begin with, if we count the numbers, and these numbers are before you. So I want to bring your attention to both these numbers at the bottom of the two photographs. Over 8,000 cubic meters on average per well per year is what we pump, because we simply have a very large number of wells. Similarly, with about 3 million perennial springs at 10 liters per minute, you can imagine that there's something like 16 billion cubic meters of water that aquifers, mountain aquifers, let out to at base flows, or which contribute to the base flow of streams and rivers, just from this very small resource placed in the mountains. And so when we look at recharge and when we look at sources, we must also look at both the natural and human-made discharges of groundwater. Such a large-scale dependency has led essentially to three problems. First one is the problem of groundwater depletion, which also relates to a larger problem of loss of heritage. The water quality issue in terms of water quality and health, and the impact of groundwater contamination on water quality and health. Fluorosis, arsenicosis, high salinity related health issues, and so on and so forth. And of course, last but not least, impacts on the ecosystem, mainly impacts on rivers. And the drying up of rivers, one of the major causes of drying up of rivers in India is the natural groundwater discharge to rivers has been taken up by, by our development agenda in terms of pumping for food security, for life, for urbanization, for industrialization. So there is a trade-off there. And with that trade-off, I'd like to come to the second part of my presentation. Again, just pictures that whether it's deserts, droughts, floods, wetlands, there is an omnipresence of groundwater in all these contexts. And there have been traditional mechanisms of harvesting rainwater, recharging groundwater, and using it through long-standing traditional means of local level groundwater management. I mean, take the case, for example, in Bihar. This is again from a source from an organization who we've been able to partner for the last few years. Decentralized rainwater harvesting. I mean, this is one of the most rudimentary, simple, and most efficient forms of rainwater harvesting that people rely on during the course of a flood, say on an embankment. But if you come to very broad, the broad concept of rainwater harvesting, and if you look at the way rainwater harvesting is done, so you can harvest rain, put it on the surface, store it on the surface, use it off the surface. Or you can harvest it on the surface, put it into the ground, and use it as groundwater. Now, when you harvest rain, when you put recharge in an aquifer, the consumption may be on the domestic side, on the irrigation side, by an industry, by city, and so on and so forth. Now, recharge itself has two mechanisms. It can be spread out as a water body, and it can percolate into the ground steadily, slowly as diffuse recharge. Or you collect your rainwater from your rooftop, bring it down into a pipe, and put it into a well. Of course, filters and all notwithstanding. But essentially that is, you're collecting water from a large area and putting it inside the ground through one point. In the urban, again, you see a lot of the point source recharge today. I mean, because you don't have open spaces. Rural, you see both. Urban, you see point source. Consumption, again, is domestic, industrial, commercial. So the context is very important to understand. Now, I think the most important aspect of this context is that groundwater recharge is not just about pushing water into the ground. Groundwater recharge is actually the addition of water to the existing groundwater storage in an aquifer. That storage may have depleted over a period of time, but you are actually recharging the aquifer. It is aquifer recharge. Because when you think of recharge, you also must think about the natural discharge from an aquifer. That, the base flow in a river is nothing but the groundwater discharge moving out of an aquifer and into a river or watershed system, into the surface water flow systems of a catchment or even at a river basin scale. So I think when you talk of groundwater recharge, you must equally think of groundwater discharge, whether it's natural as here, or whether you're pumping it out through wells, boreholes, and tube wells. Now, if we look at, for example, what's happening to the relationship between groundwater and surface water at A and what's happening to it at B, you get two different scenarios. At A, the stream or even the larger area is helping take water into the ground. So it is actually a recharge scenario. It's a losing stream. You can put a check dam there and you can get the best spreading related recharge to that system. In B, on the other hand, you can't put a recharge structure because your water levels are quite high, your aquifer is saturated, but just because you see a very large river, you are tempted to put a very large structure, a very large check dam, and presume that this check dam is going to recharge the aquifer system. Sorry, I'm being extremely fundamental in my articulation because I think unless this fundamental articulation comes to our practice and policy tables, nothing is going to change. Even the best of intentions might go unnoticed. So, if you are thinking of a structure here, you need a different strategy to what you might want to do here. So you can't have a single big ticket solution to look at rainwater harvesting and recharge. Now, like I said, there must be a reference to aquifers. By bringing in a reference to aquifers, simply, I'm just putting up this cartoon, you can think about which are your best areas for recharge and which are your best areas for harvesting, simply harvesting aquifer discharges for use for ecosystem purposes or for whatever needs. Now, at the same time, you must remember that something is also happening in between the dark blue arrows and the white arrows. A lot of that is pumping. And therefore, pumping from an aquifer affects aquifer storage, it affects base flows, and it affects recharge. And therefore, it's important to understand all of these things together. Now, I think somebody posed a question on Bundelkhand. And I'll actually tell you something from my own experience of working in Bundelkhand. I have been to some of the most, I would call this, groundwater pristine areas of India in Bundelkhand. And this is, of course, some years back, 2012, 2008 in fact. And you can actually, and this is a picture from peak summer, there are no dams upstream in this catchment. And yet you see base flows in systems. This is, of course, a hard rock system in the same Bundelkhand region. Even in an alluvial system, in the peak summer, you see some wonderful base flows. You can actually see some of the ravine flats in the vicinity, and you see these. So, groundwater recharge is also about protecting and maintaining our ecosystems, because the health of our ecosystems is going to be the health of our aquifers. Now, I want to sort of quickly go through the next few slides again, just as a part of what Mukund said, that I think recharge is just one, the left hand of the system, whereas the management of demand is the right hand. And I think these two go together, and I'm going to sort of talk to you a little bit about that. I think when we talk of recharge, and I know Dipankar is waiting in the wings to really bring it on to us, and he'll talk a little bit more about managed aquifer recharge. But let me set the principles for that. So, managed aquifer recharge, or MAR as it is called, is the intentional or designed recharge of water to aquifers for two things. Remember, subsequent recovery for meeting our own needs, and also to ensure environmental benefits. Hence, the managed process strives for adequate protection of human health and environment both. Aquifers may be recharged by diversion of water into wells or infiltration of water from the floor of basins, galleries, or rivers. And I think this also depends on many things. It depends on the type of aquifer you are trying to recharge, whether it's an unconfined aquifer or a phreatic aquifer, or on the other hand, whether it's a confined aquifer. It also depends on the aquifer properties, especially the transmissivity of the aquifer or the storativity of the aquifer. And all this decide on the design of the recharge program and the impacts of the recharge program. Having said that, I think when you look at structures like these, check dams, where you have spreading, where you're looking at a diffuse recharge system, or check dams, old sort of revival of older structures, water harvesting structures like this, then you must remember, and this is again derived from global literature on managed aquifer recharge, and I like this graphic very much because it precisely reflects my own thoughts, that much of the recharge focus is on the 1 and 2. Even in a watershed program, even in rural areas, we talk about the catchment revival, catchment conservation, catchment protection, catchment treatment. We talk about the harvesting of water. Water goes into the aquifer, it's stored in the aquifer, and then the 5, 6, and 7 is left to people to manage on their own. There are absolutely no incentives on the 5, 6, and 7, which is essentially what I think Mukund was saying about demand management. So, part of the management is recharge management, but part of the management is also demand management. I mean, this is just a simple cartoon of showing that your recharge, which may actually have gone through a fairly good filtration system, is adding to an aquifer. And the ambient groundwater in the aquifer might be in a different state, might have certain contaminants. And I think when you recover that water for use, it might need treatment if you're going to use it as a potable supply. It might not need treatment if you're using it for irrigation. But it just symbolizes the 5, 6, 7 parts. Now, when you put in water through a point source, or when you inject water into a borehole, like we are trying to do here in this experiment, again, this was in partnership with Central Groundwater Boards several years ago in Alwar in Rajasthan. You really don't know at what rate this water is going. So you actually do a slug injection test before you design the recharge program. And this is effectively what a point source recharge does. It has a very different capture zone, it has a very different filtration system, and it has a recharge system that adds water to the ambient groundwater in the aquifer, but your 5, 6, and 7 remain in place. That doesn't change. So managed aquifer recharge is actually a wonderful process of combining augmentation along with the management of augmented water plus the water in the aquifer. So it's almost like a complete process in that whole exercise. So when you put water into the aquifer, for example, the response for a point source recharge might be that it takes a smaller amount of water to get into the aquifer over a long period of time, in this case. In the second case, you can possibly get in more water into the aquifer over a much shorter period of time. And another example is if there are multiple aquifers, you can actually see the response of the water going in, the rates at which the water goes into the shallow aquifer here and the deeper aquifer there. You can actually see different responses at different time scales. And I think this becomes a very important, like a protocol. And there are these protocols for managed aquifer recharge. There are various types of managed aquifer recharge. Each is contextualized to a particular geography, a particular situation, a particular condition. Now, you might have one type of aquifer. It might be in different places in different stages of exploitation, and therefore, even for a single geology or even for a single type of aquifer, your recharge strategies might tend to differ. I'm going to leave you with the next 2 slides. First is, this is like a broad aquifer typology that we at Aquadam follow. I mean, we borrow also from CGWB's typologies and from the GXI's maps and so on. This is based on similarities and differences on aquifer behavior in different parts of India. Now, because we are looking at managed aquifer recharge, I think we need a very different strategy. And if you look at the master plan for artificial recharge that the CGWB devised in 2005, almost under the leadership of Dipankar and others, 14% of the total land area of India is actually suitable for managed aquifer recharge. If you actually look at the volume, and this is something we've calculated, you actually are looking at a potential of 80 millimeters over the entire area. 80 millimeters of the entire area as a potential for managed aquifer recharge. So it's a national level program. We must do it carefully. We must do it systematically because it has this whole notion of scale. Scale is a paradox because scale is something which looks at large potential and therefore you want very simple solutions like a common vaccine for COVID-19. This doesn't work in a sector like ours. And last but not least, I cannot help myself without referring to demand management with specific reference to aquifers. And our own experience actually helps us arrive at about 7 very, very broad demand management actions. First is efficiency in the conservation efforts itself, and I talked a little bit about that in the preceding slides. Improving pumping efficiencies. I mean, what is pumping efficiency? At the moment, the only efficiency that I can see people talking about is this bullet, improving efficiencies in usage and application. It's important, but I think we must improve our pumping efficiencies. It is one of the best mechanisms of demand management in India. I mean, can we fix pumping efficiencies? Third is protecting key resources, especially drinking water wells and springs, which is water for life. Avoiding competition and conflict. One farmer versus another farmer, or industry versus agriculture. And this becomes a very big demand management, both a demand management goal and a set of objectives and activities. I talked about improving efficiencies in uses and application. Sharing, I think the most important part, because groundwater with all its complexities is still a common pool resource. And aquifer is a common pool resource. And therefore collectivizing the use of groundwater, bringing in systematic water budgeting on the basis of what is available. So therefore quantification is the key. On the basis of, I was also sort of looking at one question incidentally that Ishwar Kaya has posed. We actually do this, all the work that we do at Aquadam at the local level with whatever crude form that we might follow. We come up with a quantitative estimation of what is available in every single aquifer in an area through a detailed, of course, study of 1.5 years, and we can actually begin to predict at every single season, or for that matter, or at the end of every single day, what could be the broad aquifer storage that you have, on the basis of which, so you actually do a systematic groundwater balance before you come to crop water budgeting. And last but not least, and I would like to end on this note, that comprehensive participatory groundwater management is impossible without partnerships with last mile stakeholders. So the last message that I would like to leave with you is, I think we need a PPP model, even with regard to rainwater harvesting, groundwater recharge. So what is PPP? PPP is public, private, maybe people, public, private partnerships. Can we design these for an integrated supply and demand management of aquifers in India? On that note, thank you very much. I'm going to be around for a few moments, maybe another 5-6 minutes. So if there are any questions, I'd be happy to take them up. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kulkarni, for that very, very thought-provoking presentation. And as you so nicely enumerated for many of us who are not, technical experts, so in a language that is so fundamental, as you said, and that is required to influence policy as well as practice. So thank you very much. I can't even begin to sort of summarize, the many, many important tenets that you laid out for groundwater recharge and aquifer management, and all the points that you stressed on demand side management. I think there are tremendous, set of key takeaways from your presentation. So thank you very much. I would now like to invite Dr. Dipankar Saha, who has been the former member secretary of the Central Groundwater Authority and former member of the Central Groundwater Board. So he brings expertise and experience from both the policy, regulatory side and the management side of groundwater. So over to you, Dr. Dipankar Saha. Dr. Saha, you will need to unmute yourself.
Yes, just one moment. My presentation is
not yet.
Is it visible now?
Not yet, but I think it will just come on screen very shortly. Yes, now it is. Please go ahead.
Thanks, madam, and thanks, Vicky, for giving me this opportunity, and as well as National Water Mission. There's a lot of discussion about the artificial recharge and rainwater harvesting, and Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni has elaborately expressed about the efficacy of artificial recharge, rainwater harvesting, managed aquifer recharge. I will try to tell you some of the recent learning on aquifers of India from different program that is going on. Particularly one program that is very, very important, that is National Aquifer Mapping Program or NACU, that is being carried out by Central Groundwater Board to understand, map the groundwater resource of India and aquifers of India. And why should take a, say, out-of-box thinking about the groundwater recharge, and what are the logic that we should go for bigger scale recharge scheme. I mean, when we talk about artificial recharge, it's good that we always talk about community-based artificial recharge, small structures. Artificial recharge are basically small structures, disseminated structures. But there are opportunities where we can go for artificial recharge and recharge the aquifer just as a replica of big dam on the surface. Like in a dam, if millions of liters of water can be stored, similarly, in a suitable geological condition, suitable aquifer condition, millions of liters of water can be stored underground. So let us see how it unfolds. Some basic information, some basic idea about the artificial, but that it should be there, one slide. It refers to transfer of surface water to the aquifer by human interference. So basically there will be some construction, there will be some interference by human being, so that the recharging of the aquifer is accelerated. Otherwise the recharge always goes on through normal percolation. When rain comes, runoff occurs, a part of that goes into the surface, within the surface, and recharge. But whenever artificial recharge, it is human interference, and the process of recharge is faster, and it is enhance the groundwater resource at a rate exceeding that under natural condition of replenishment. That's why it's the artificial recharge. Now, there are many efforts by the central and the state government departments on rainwater harvesting and artificial recharge. We always see rainwater harvesting and artificial recharge as two brothers. They are related to each other. So whenever you harvest rainwater, a part of that will automatically transfer below the ground and artificial recharge takes. Can be options where your intention is only for artificial recharge. May not be harvest the rainwater on the surface, collect the water and directly pump into the aquifer or put into the aquifer. But in a general connotation, rainwater harvesting and artificial recharge, they always go hand in hand. And the largest activity of rainwater harvesting, I would say, that is being carried out in Mahatma Gandhi National Rural Development Guarantee Act, that is Manrega, and a huge investment is being done on water-related works, and they are basically on water conservation, and they also, there is a collateral benefit on recharging the aquifers. So a lot of emphasis on water conservation in Manrega. Thousands of crore rupees are being spent, and there is a collateral benefit, I told you, on artificial recharge. And there is a very interesting publication last year that has come up in the Nature Journal, that because of some huge recharge, water conservation and artificial recharge effort that is going on, there is a overall positive development of groundwater resource in the central and southern part of India in pockets. So the story is not very frustrating everywhere. There are good stories also, that there is a cumulative effect of Manrega activity on rainwater harvesting. But recently, subsequently, the Manrega has taken up additional water conservation related work, which has a greater component on artificial nature. I mean, by taking up those water conservation structures, there will be more artificial recharge or more recharge to the aquifers. They are like contour trenches, contour drums, then holder and check dams, farm bonding, etc. So the Manrega is a huge, there is a huge emphasis on water conservation and artificial recharge, and that is definitely impacting. But again, it is small structure disseminated over wide areas, and Manrega, the industries also take a lot of effort on artificial recharge, I would say, because when they go for NOC, no objection certificate from the Central Groundwater Authority for the groundwater extraction, they need to commit for artificial recharge. So, thinking about the stage of groundwater development of the area, there are very strict regulations that industry has to recharge, say 50% of the water extracted, 100% of the water extracted, and even 200% of the water extracted. I mean, if the industry draws 50 meter cube of water in overexploited draw, he is supposed to recharge 200 meter cube of water. So industries are also doing that. Then another activity, voluntarily they are doing rainwater harvesting and artificial recharge. We are all aware of that. Many industries, they are doing excellent work, good work. And there are also many state water conservation related schemes. And the aquifers gets collateral benefit out of those schemes. Like one excellent example is Mission Kakatiya in the Telangana state, where the tanks are getting renovated. So while the tanks are getting renovated, maybe the intention was to increase the storage of the tank. But when you renovate the tank and you clean the low potential, low permeable, say organic rich layer at the bottom, the seal deposit, automatically the recharge increases. And there are evidences that there is a good increase in groundwater recharge because of the Mission Kakatiya endeavor. Besides that, nowadays the rooftop rainwater harvesting is very, very popular and it is mandatory in many of the urban areas, say in Chennai, Hyderabad, many, many areas. And strict laws at some places, but unless you have a rooftop rainwater harvesting plan, your building plan will not be passed. And people are also, they are well aware nowadays, so they go for rooftop rainwater harvesting so that the aquifer gets recharged and the borewell water comes out around the year. There is no drying up of aquifer. But still, I would say the overexploitation is raging. So in different parts of India, there is a huge overexploitation. If you see the consecutive groundwater resource estimate that is made by Central Groundwater Board in collaboration with the State Groundwater Department, about 16 to 17% of the blocks, administrative blocks in India are overexploited. And in some of the overexploited blocks, you will not believe the stage of groundwater development is 300%, 350%. I mean to say, if the recharge is 100, you are extracting 350 units. And they are, I would say, expanding in many areas, particularly in the northwestern part, in the western part, in the southern part, and in the central part of India. And they are, overexploitation is pervasive in all type of agriculture. Be it in high Punjab and Haryana, be it in basaltic aquifer like Maharashtra, be it in other hard rock aquifer like in the state of Telangana, like in the state of Karnataka. So everywhere there is a serious problem of overexploitation. Now I say this is a very good thing that beside artificial recharge, the policymaker and the public representative, they are rightly getting attentive on demand side intervention. So our Himanshu has talked a lot about demand side intervention, and there definitely the artificial, there are areas and there are evidences that has come out from National Aquifer Mapping Program that even if we take all artificial recharge measures, say in state like Haryana, where the overexploitation is so acute, the problem will be improved by merely 10 to 15% or at best 20%. So you have to go for demand side intervention like if efficient irrigation, like crop diversification, etc., etc. And Government of India has rightly taken up Atal Jal Yojana, previously it was Atal Bhujal Yojana. I would say it's a unique scheme in the entire world where incentivizing on efficient water use, and not incentivizing the water extraction. You save more water, you use water more efficiently, and you take more incentive. That is the idea. Now, obviously the demand side intervention is very, very important. But now I will try to tell you that we should even look into the possibility of large scale artificial recharge and creating large scale groundwater dam, I would say. So let us enter into my argument. The rainwater harvesting and artificial recharge remained, I told you, is a disseminated small structure. They are low investment, 2 lakhs, 5 lakhs, 10 lakhs investment here and there. And many a times, the selection of the sites are not wedded with the hydrogeology of the area. Himanshu has rightly pointed out. And without the basic understanding of aquifer, we select our sites of artificial recharge or rainwater harvesting structure because of land may be available, because of some political pressure, because of some other reason. And many a times the water harvesting artificial recharge structures are community driven and they are very success stories. There are many success stories of water harvesting and artificial recharge. That community driven structure has created wonder in a regional level. The example is Saurashtra in the state of Gujarat. But my point is, why we not look for a large and well-integrated artificial recharge structures targeting an aquifer where the underground conditions are suitable? Why not? You see the photograph. This is a famous aquifer in the state of Gujarat in a place called Kutch. You might have visited the Ran of Kutch. It is otherwise very nice area, and you will never realize what is the level of overexploitation, what is the level of water scarcity here. And the rocks you can see, it is a beautiful aquifer, we call huge aquifer, and it is almost completely dried up now. The water level has gone down even up to 200 meters at some places because of the heavy overexploitation. So can we recharge this aquifer in an integrated manner with all our engineering and scientific understanding of the aquifer so that large underground dam can be created? And the first presentation, there was a nice word, that strategic reserve. And this groundwater, this recharged water in the mega recharge scale, they should be used as a strategic resource. Now, when you go for mega scale artificial recharge, I would say there are some basic points that National Aquifer Mapping Program, it has revealed nicely that there are many areas where thick, dry aquifers are there. These aquifers are hydraulically so well connected over hundreds of square kilometers, even thousands of square kilometers, that you can consider them as a single entity and try to recharge them as a single entity. So you can divert surface water in large scale and store it. The artificial recharge structures, mega scale structures, it should be integrated with a master unlined canal. So there will be unlined canal which will take the water from other place or a flood water into that area. Then there will be integrated different type of artificial recharge structure linked with the canal, and water will be transferred into the aquifer. And it can take the benefit of climate change. You know, if you remember, there was a huge rainfall in Kutch in 4 or 5 days before. In Saurashtra, there was flood. And at the same time, those areas are suffering from acute water crisis in the month of summer. So why not to dive? And there are not sufficient number of dams also. And construction of new dam may not be possible, may be very difficult. So why not to take benefit of the dried up, large, high potential aquifers and store the flood water into those? And the mega scale artificial recharge will be the replica of the large dam on the surface, like we see the Sardar Sarovar, like we see the Tehri Dam. It will be a big dam underground. Of course, we cannot see that. But no land acquisition is required in case of underground dam. or no evaporation loss. You see, 20 to 25% of the stored water in a dam is goes as a evaporation loss. So nothing will be there. And in large scale artificial recharge, the storage capacity is in million meter cube, not in 100 or 1000 meter cube. But of course, there are questions, we have to answer those. Where will be the source water? Of course, it will be from flood water. And flood is related to climate change, extreme event. How frequently they comes? Then from where the investment will come? Can the private party play a role? Then regulated use of the recharge water. It's not that the thousands of crore rupees will be invested for developing a mega scale artificial recharge and the farmers happily will put their well and draw water as much as they like. So there should be a regulated use. Can there be a pricing of recharge water if extracted and used? So there should be a clear-cut policy document on this aspect. Now I will give you only two examples. That first example is Bhuj Aquifer, Kutch area in the Gujarat. I have got the opportunity last year to work extensively in those areas. It's a nice landscape. It's a beautiful landscape, but everything is there except water. You see, when I say interacted with one or two farmers, they are from the Patil community, very enterprising. I told them that you are drawing so much water from the aquifers by putting, you will not believe, 75 horsepower pump in their wells and drawing water from 200 meter below, 200 meter below ground. I told them that what you are doing, your aquifer will be finished. They are telling, sir, if it is finished, then we will move on to solar panel. We say change our profession. But it's a word of frustration. There should be some way out to come out of this crisis. Now you can see in the map the Bhuj formation, this light green color, light blue color, if you can see my cursor, this is the Bhuj formation from east to west. And this formation is an excellent freshwater aquifer surrounded by low potential saline aquifer. So I mean to say, and because this is high potential aquifer, because this is a freshwater aquifer spanning over 2,300 kilometers square, so everybody is exhausting this aquifer. And all around there are low potential aquifer. Virtually there is hardly any groundwater, and whatever water is there, that is saline. Now if you see the next slide, this one, this is a Bhuj aquifer that's from east to west is roughly about 150 kilometer or so from one end to another, and 2,300 square kilometer area. It's a gift of the God in that area. But you can see in 2018, and this is the depth to water level map to show you that how deep the water levels are. And you will not believe in 3 or 4 decades before, you can see there are many abandoned wells. I mean to say the water level was 20, 30 meters before maybe 3 or 4 decades. Now you see in 2018, the well depths are 120 to 410 meters below ground, depth of the wells. And the water levels are 50 to 148 meters, so 150 meters below ground, the water level. And if you put a 75 horsepower pump into that, and if you run it, you can imagine what will be the drawdown. And the ultimate water level goes easily below 200 meters or 600 feet. The average water level in the Bhuj aquifer in 2018 was 70 meter, and between 2014 and 2018, in the course of 4 years, the water level has gone down 20 to 40 meters in that area. And you see, there is an accounting, and it has been published just in one of the Elsevier journals, that annual recharge is 104 million cubic meter, and you see the annual extraction, 1,058 million cubic meter, 10 times. So what type of intervention you will take here? What demand side intervention you will take? What supply side intervention you will take? You should go for strict regulation that is politically unpalatable. You cannot go for that. So the answer can be that you go for mega scale artificial recharge. Now, the proposal is that a massive underground reservoir, and we can work out, and that can store, considering the unsaturated or dry part of the aquifer, it can in total store more than 12,000 million cube of water in the aquifer. In the aquifer, 12,000 million cube of water in the aquifer. But there are questions, but this is geologically, hydrogeologically a feasible phenomenon. Now I will end up my talk with another example. It has gone much ahead. There is a mega recharge scheme that has been proposed between the state of Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh. You know, the Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh all are hard rock area. We geologically call it basalt area. There is very little groundwater in that, where our my friend Himanshu was the basaltic terrain of Maharashtra. But again, there is a gift of God, I will say, that between Maharashtra and Madhya Pradesh, if you can see my cursor, this yellow part is the top of this basin. It is a faulted basin between the Deccan Tract and 250 to 300 meters thick. Alluvial deposits are enclosed in this basin, and a prolific aquifer system has been developed, fresh aquifer system. So it's a high potential aquifer system, this yellow part in this map. All around there, low potential hard rock. But within this, there is an island of high potential aquifer. And you can see the depth of water level, because there is a high potential aquifer, all surrounded by hard rocks. A huge development of water and huge destruction. On this map, the lower map, you can see that the water level has gone below 40 to 60 meters below ground in the red part, in this part. So water level which was previously 5 to 10 meters below ground, over the last 3 to 4 decades, it has gone down to 40 to 60 meters below ground. So very precarious situation. In this Tapi alluvial basin surrounded by the hard rock, the thickness of the aquifer is more than 250 meters, and you can see in the dry part of the aquifer, there is a recharge potential of 2090 million cubic meters. And from east to west, which is about, say, you can say 120 kilometers long and 45. In that area, all the aquifers are interconnected. There is a lot of study that has been taken up under National Aquifer Management Program, geophysical study, hydrogeological study. So it is a single aquifer system, you can tell, of course with minor variation. So there can be a beautiful mega-scale artificial recharge to store 2,000 MCM of groundwater in that scale. And you can see that this map will show you the granular zones, the thickness of granular zones, which is dry because of the very deep water level and which are waiting to absorb water. Just to bring water from somewhere, from some dam, from some rainfall, from flood, and they will absorb and keep it as a strategic resource underground. And this is ideally suitable for artificial. So there was a proposal that per year you can divert 360 million cubic meter of water, and that can be recharged. And again, there will be master canal, online canal, which will be, I am giving you a little bit of technical because that will support the case. There will be two master canals. You can see this is the Tapi Valley and this is the hills. This is again the hills. If you see my cursor, this is the Tapi Valley, which is a prolific aquifer system but dry, mostly dry. Now there will be a canal at the northern part of this all along, and there will be a canal on the southern part all along, and there will be a line canal. So there will be huge recharge from the canal because of the high transmissivity, high absorbing capacity of the aquifer. Plus there will be an array of artificial recharge structure which will take out water from the canal and put it efficiently into the aquifer system. So through that we can say 225,000 hectares can benefit from artificial recharge. This has been worked out, and there can be a rise of water level 4 meters per year. Even if you go for your present level of extraction, which is causing over-exploitation in that, even in that case, 4 meters of rise of water level can be there. So the government should think, the industry should think, and my submission is that though we should go for artificial recharge, of course it's a solution, and we should go with full understanding of aquifer. And whenever there is a possibility of mega scale recharge, creating underground dam, storing water for as our strategic resource, and these information are coming out from our national mapping program, from different type of programs that is being taken up by IITs, by other organizations, by the state government as well. So we should take benefit of our knowledge, of our understanding of aquifers, and we should strive for mega scale artificial recharge. Thanks for patient hearing.
Thank you, Dr. Dipankar Saha, for the elaborate presentation on mega aquifer recharge. Again, very interesting and different insights on aquifer recharge at scale. So thank you very much. Now we'll move on to the final presentation from our side, which is from Corporate Speaker, Ms. Malvika Gopinath, Corporate Health, Environment and Safety Specialist from Limited. So over to you, Malvika. Yes. Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I'd just like to start with. I hope it is visible.
Not yet. And Malvika, please speak a little louder. Thank you.
Yeah. Is the screen visible?
Not yet. I guess it will come up.
First of all, I'd like to thank PTM National Organization for this opportunity.
Malvika, you're not very audible. You need to speak up louder.
Yeah,
just before you go on, I just wanted to quickly mention that we have indeed overshot our time, but I must say that there are more than 200 participants still logged in, so significant interest. So over to you, quickly. Yes.
First of all, thank you so much for the opportunity, and it is very interesting to be perspective of variety of techniques. Has the slideshow loaded?
Not yet. We'll still need you to speak closer to your mic, please. You're not very audible.
Sorry.
Yes, it's come up now. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so one of the things that came out to today's discourse is that we have to look at the supply side and when we're speaking about water situation. So that is what I'm going to do, and I'll try to do this time. I'll just briefly take you to IPC, typically industry management. We've been doing for decades, what we have speaking strategy. So, as most of you may know, IPC is India's private sector company. We have a diversified presence in FMCG, food packages, food, and agribusiness. And as a company that plans highly on using calculations for raw material supply, it is imperative for us to work with the farmers and other stakeholders.
Sorry, to hear you, can you speak louder, please, closer to your mic? Thank you so much.
Is this better?
Yes, this is better.
All right, great. So we work towards creating sustainable livelihoods for more than 6 million people directly and indirectly, because rural catchments are really important for us as a company which has high dependency on agri-water cables. So we, very early on, we moved towards this holistic approach of looking at water from a more catchment or watershed perspective, and something outside your fence, because we realize that you cannot limit, when you're looking at long-term sustainability of your business operations, you cannot limit yourself to within your fence or to what you capture within your fence. So we moved towards a watershed approach early in 2000. And currently we have a watershed management project over 11.33 lakh acres across the country. So I'll just very briefly tell you about the approach, how we look at it. of course, at the unit level, we look at both demand side and supply side management, where within the unit, it happens through water audits and assessments to optimize water consumption. This is actually quite important when you collaborate with them on both as well through your CSR perspective. It actually helps in building trust at the ground level, which is very important for industries to have social license to operate. That is very important for long-term business. Yeah. So it helps you out in the water management. Our experience we provide this is a paper was actually from Powai, Tamil Nadu. So it obtains its water from a stream which is part of the Bhavani basin, and as most other parts of the country, it also faces water security risk of the climatic conditions and excessive usage of water. So we've been working there since 2015, and we implemented, we figured out our watershed management strategy after an expert hydrogeological assessment, and this was done by GeoWill, and we collaborated with WWF India as our knowledge partner. And while the priority area of this project is around 20,000 hectares, 8 panchayats and 149 villages. So we started working with them on both the demand as well as the supply side. On the supply side, obviously, we did the regular MER, creation of water harvesting structures, the farm ponds, open wells, your holder check dams, as well as rejuvenation of your existing traditional water structures. And on the demand side, we realized that the savings we may be able to achieve would be much higher if we started working on the agricultural water efficiency. So that was also considered as an important thing to do. So those two things we've already spoken about. The third thing which comes out to be quite important is that, like I mentioned already, the social aspect. Unfortunately, your local water governance is not uniform across the country, and it is a very important thing when it comes to the long-term sustainability of interventions. So it is very important that there are grassroots level institutions, and even if they exist, that they're empowered, and they are accountable, and they people and create spaces there in order for them to give you the effect they're supposed to achieve. So it has already been mentioned by Dr. Kulkarni as well. You need to work on ground to establish these grassroots level institutions. You need to have partnerships with your people as well as the local government. So we established several water users groups, SFGs, and also multi-stakeholder companies with local public sector agencies, Tamil Nadu Agricultural University. These partnerships with the knowledge support is very important because they know the local context very well, and they do a lot of research on that. So they help you out with your extension services, providing farmers in the area with information and better practices. And these committees also help in tying up. Sometimes the farmers may not be aware of the government schemes that exist, which they can use to their advantage. For drip or drip irrigation, there will be subsidies, which it's not necessary that all farmers have the same level of access to these. So it is important that you work with the water government in empowering people on a local level to ensure that whatever work you're doing on your supply side and demand side, it exists in the long term as well. So through demand side efforts, we have reached out to more 40,000 farmers and have created savings of around 3.9 million. And on the supply side, again, these numbers are from 2015. And on the water harvesting potential, which has been stated around 0.61 million cubic since 2015. So you can see the difference in how much savings you actually achieve through both efforts. One more thing is that in Powai, in 2019 October, we were able to get platinum level certification, which is actually the highest level of certification under Alliance for Water Stewardship Standard, If some of you may be aware, it's a globally applicable framework for major water users. These are just some of the photographs from ground. So these are the renovated check dams, these boulder structures, farm ponds. So as a corporate, how we consider our journey in water stewardship is that obviously we will continue with whatever work we are doing on ground, but also we realize that sometimes course correction is important, and also it's respect of water security interventions may not necessarily visible to you. So it's also important to measure and establish monitoring frameworks so that you can understand and course correct yourself so that you gain the maximum advantage in the long term. So we have been working on establishing the framework that's being finalized right now. If it was a couple of weeks later, I might have shed some more light on that. But unfortunately, this is a photo from, this is a picture from our Malu factory study area, where we have been working on watershed interventions for a while, more than 3 years now. So we have already constructed and renovated several structures, but recently we have done this efficacy assessment, and we have realized that more structures may be required. And these are some of the priority areas to show where what is required. So apart from this, we also realized that corporates, ITC as a corporate, is in a significant footprint. We still have our limitations when it comes to creating large-scale business. So obviously, collaboration is key, partnerships are key, knowledge sharing is key. We have learned a lot of things ourselves. We have learned a lot of things from expert inputs, which we may be able to share. Also, this is required to be fed into policy also to create long-term differences at a country scale. So we are always open to collaboration, partnerships, whether it's with the government or other corporates. So yeah, that is all I have for you today. Thank you very much. Over to you, Stephen.
Thank you very much, the key point here is that ITC as an organization has taken a watershed management approach and looked at not just unit level but at a watershed level. So I think that's a very important takeaway, because the perception here is that corporates, they only look at the unit level and just around their premises and not go beyond that. Here is an excellent example of how a corporate is looking at a watershed management level. So thank you very much, and you did stress on the need for collaboration. Another important takeaway is on water governance, that you stressed upon how ICT has been able to engage with the local communities, with the user groups, the block panchayat, etc., for really making this an effective and sustainable program. So that is the bottom line of any watershed management program. Thank you so much, Vika. I must say that we are way beyond our time right now. We have exceeded our time by almost 40 minutes, and I must thank the participants for patiently, waiting for the entire session and being here with us. So I'm afraid we are not going to be able to take questions right now on the webinar. However, all your questions have been documented. We are sharing this with the National Water Mission, and National Water Mission and STICKY together will come up with the FAQ list that we are getting from all the questions that have come in the previous webinar and in this one and the next two as well. And National Water Mission will find a way to post these so that everyone's questions are answered. We will also reach out the specific questions directed at some of the technical experts to the technical experts, and we'll get your responses back to you. So thank you for staying engaged.
I would like to thank the National Water Mission again for giving FICCI this wonderful opportunity to be part of this national campaign on Catch the Rain. It has been a pleasure for us to be part of this, to really reach out, not just to corporates, but wider stakeholders. So thank you, Mr. Ashok Kumar, for that opportunity and for your excellent presentation. I'd like to thank Ms. Nainalal Kitwai, the chair, and Mr. Mukut Vasudevan, the co-chair of the FICCI Water Mission. I think the bottom line here, everybody stated, is that measurement and monitoring will be very, very important to this whole exercise when we talk about aquifer management and groundwater recharge. So thanks, a very big thanks to the two technical experts.
After your thank you, just 1 minute for me.
Yes. So a very big thank you to the two technical experts who are renowned in the field of groundwater, Dr. Himanshu Kulkarni and Dr. Dipankar Saha. Extremely insightful presentations. And finally to Malvika Gopinath for sharing the corporate side of me. So thank you very much. And we are going to post both the webinar proceedings on YouTube. The link will be shared with all the participants who want to go over the proceedings once again. So just that small announcement, and thank you very much to all the participants who joined us today. Over to you, Mr. Ashok.
Thanks, Vicky, for the wonderful platform provided. Today, our session was mostly on the technical side, and both of the technical experts gave a wonderful presentation and explained everything in detail. I reiterate the whole campaign tagline which we have opened is combined all points said by the technical expert. So Catch the Rain actually is a campaign with the tagline Catch the Rain where it falls, when it falls, and it is to nudge stakeholders to create appropriate rainwater harvesting structures. That's what both the technical people said, because what is suitable in Rajasthan may not be suitable in Maharashtra, what is suitable in Maharashtra may not be suitable in Tamil Nadu. Campaign is that we should make appropriate rainwater harvesting structures suited to agroclimatic conditions and subsoil strata. Depending on the various subsoil strata, we have to have different water harvesting structures defined, and it has to be a decentralized solution. It cannot be a centralized solution, and more important, all these works have to be taken up with people's participation. So these are the 3 or 4 thrust areas of this campaign: appropriateness of these structures, people's participation, and since it is very contemporary, because we are now talking about the supply side. There are a lot of things to be different on the demand side. It's a comprehensive thing. But if we don't catch the rain now, after 2 months, we don't get the rain to catch. So the thrust would be catch the rain, and we can discuss about the demand side part. A lot of things are being done. My appeal to all the participants here is, let us focus now on catching the rain, appropriate rainwater structures, and please share us the success story of what we are doing to the website, to the email I'll share you now, is catchtherain.nwm. That's the short form for National Water Mission. catchtherain.nwm@gmail.com. It's a Gmail.com. Why put Gmail? Because it is helping a lot of private participants also to send their email. If the government mail, probably they have some more restriction. That's why email ID. It's catchtherain.nwm@gmail.com. So I request all the participants, if they see good rainwater harvesting structures coming up, or if they are doing campaign anywhere, or if they want to do some campaign for IEC materials and all these things, they can write to us in this address. I repeat once again, catchtherain.nwm@gmail.com. Thanks once again.
Thank you, Mr. Ashok Kumar. Thank you very much. Thank you all.